Hi, Assalamualaikum. A very good day to everyone. My name is Dr. Sharifah Shahira. I am going to explain to all of you and share all of you about public administration and policy. So this is a part one. So I will be talking to two main subfields in political science. In chapter 3, we have public administration and policy, and the other one is international relation. So here we have two main parts. Number one is the definition of public administration and policy. And number two, main dimension of public administration and policy. What are the dimensions? So definition of public administration. Okay, it is the implementation of government policy responsible for determining the policies and also programs for the government. So it is about planning, organizing, directing, coordinating, controlling of the government operations. So it is all about the method of managing and administrating government, and government is an important machinery with expanding activities and functions. So to be a government is not something that is easy. We need public administration and also a written document how the administration will be the process and so forth will be implemented. So we have what we call policy. After policy, we have action plan. So execution of public policy is about the public administration, and political scientists or all of you as political science student, all of you need to be able to see whether the process of implementing the policy is in a right manner. So we have many components in public administration and policy. We have personnel administration, fiscal administration, and also about good public relations. So what are the main dimensions of a public administration and policy? So before we go for that, let us just look at the main components of government. We have three for Malaysia: judiciary, executive, and legislative. So judiciary implement the law, while executive is the one that is focusing on public administration and policy, whereby all the public administrators are in the executive component. So we do have how executive implement policy, and it starts with prime minister, ministers, and then we do have what we call Ketua Negara, we have Ketua Setiausaha Kementerian, and so forth. And when it comes to legislative, it is all about amend, interpret, and also amend and also introduce new law. All right. So lower house or introduce policies and revise policy. Lower house, we have this what we call federal. Upper house is the Senate. So these are the three components that shapes what we have today as a government. And public administration, most of it focusing on the implementation of the policy itself. Policy, remember, is a written document on how the government will administrate the whole country. Okay, that is what policy is about. It's in a blueprint, it's in a paper, it is stated, and everybody we can actually see. For example, we have Dasar Belia Negara, we have Dasar Wanita Negara, we have Dasar Ekonomi Baru. All of you can just Google it and get the document because it is written and officially must be known to all the rakyat. So as I mentioned just now, definition of public policy, I like to put it in written. It's a written document consists of government principle, mission, vision, plan of action, and decisions. So we do have our blueprint on public policy on Wawasan Kemakmuran Negara. In order, the action plan is stated inside there, the mission, the principle of the government, the vision, how, and also the action plan, how to ensure we have a prosperous Malaysia. Okay, and we do have a lot of policies outside there. For example, one child policy in China last time. We have Malaysian economic plan and policy. We are trying to have anti-sexual harassment act, and we also have a lot of policy on anti-sexual harassment and service delivery policy that rakyat is the customer, and also of course zero waste policy that we are still working on it. For example, like our recycle campaign. So when it is only a campaign, it's not still not translating to policy. So that's why campaigns doesn't work that well compared to an official policy. So the dimensions of public policy, we have 4. Values, what kind of values that we want as a country. And number 2, process and the environment of it. The implementation, of course, the result. Okay, values, process, implementation, process, and the result. So when it comes to values, we are lucky to be in Malaysia that we do have a country, a government that uphold human rights, that uphold the right democratic ideology, and also believing in normative model. Normative model means something that is common sense and everybody accepts it. For example, like justice, liberalist model, utilitarianism. Utilitarianism means that what you give, you get back. Okay, sustainable development. Okay, how to sustain the development instead of going decreasing, but how to actually make it sustain, increase, or at the status quo. Human rights, of course, we are lucky in our federal constitution of Malaysia is stated about freedom, equality, civil rights, political rights, and also social rights. Ideology, there are so many, but of course there are certain ideology in Malaysia that we might need to actually amend. For example, like there are some racial ideology promoted by certain political party, and also some political party also abuse the principle of religion and so forth. So process is all about how it is implemented, okay, how the policy is implemented. For example, when we have a policy that is only in a day that we will get our passport. If we process the passport, we apply for the passport, we will get in a day. Last time it was months in order to get a passport. So why? But then they have to come up with a SOP. And also, of course, because we do have the ability or technology to do so in a day. Not all countries in the world can produce passport in a day. There are so many countries in the world that needs months in order to have a passport. Okay, so in other words, Malaysia now already achieved effectiveness and efficiency of an organization. So how it moves? For example, like all of you, when you want to actually apply for Mara loan, you will be given timeline when you are going to get it because there are standard operation procedure on it. If it's very important, this is the thing that people always forget, that politics is also about this. Okay, the process, how the rakyat can get what he or her wants, okay, the things that we want. Consists of draft and refined policy, agenda setting, issue filtering, definition, forecasting, setting, objective and priorities. For example, like budget. So we are lucky because we do have budget for example like Mara loan or even for the students loan. So because of that, there are process for it. Okay, so policy maintenance, succession, and termination. So process determine about that. There are certain policy needs to be terminated. There's certain policy needs to be amended, and so forth. Then we have implementation. Implementation sometimes is when it comes to process. Okay, the standard operating procedure is good and so forth. However, when it comes to implementation, it is more than just process. It's more than just from A to B, C, and D, but it is about how we do it. The style of implementing the policy is also very important. Okay, the competency and the attitude. To what extent the staff or the public administrator willingly taking the task and implement it in a good manner. For example, there are maybe some using authoritative models, some using participative model, some may be coalition of actor models, and also endless learning model. So there are so many models how to actually implement the stated process and the policy, and even how to actually amplify the values of the country. For example, in our country, we are trying to amplify the values of perpaduan. Okay, so how we want to actually implement, is it using authoritative model or participative model? So it is quite obvious that we would like to have a democratic model or participative model in order to implement unity in Malaysia. Compared to, for example, like North Korea, they are asking all the citizens to they use authoritative or authoritarian model to actually ask everybody to adhere to the rules of the country. Then this is the thing that a lot of people unable to do is, and also it's very important, is evaluation and impact analysis. Okay, for example, like in Malaysia, we have gender policy or women's policy, but however there are so many issues still occurring. One of the reason because there's no gender impact assessment or analysis, right? So, like in our KUPTM or any universities, okay, to what extent a university analyze the impact of the students after graduating? To what extent they are able to be a successful executive or a successful business person? All right. As university, they cannot just look at employment rate because they are producing executives and also decision makers. So they're supposed to go even in depth by looking at to what extent the student able to work at the level that they are qualified to work as. All right. So, to what extent effectiveness and efficiency of the policy and implementation, improving the policy and make changes in the processes and implementation. So, there are needs to be amended and so forth. Yeah. So that's all for this part, for this video on public administration and policy. So these are very important, and this is also a part of political science study. All right. So public administration, good public administration, effective public administration will actually directly help us to live comfortably. Good policy will make our life better. For example, like in Malaysia, we do not have policy that discriminates women. So because of that, women in Malaysia able to live as equal, as good as men. Compared to certain country like Afghanistan, like Saudi Arabia, and also a few other countries, that directly implement discrimination against women. So their women in these countries are unable to live life to the fullest compared to women that has a better policy like in Malaysia. So that's all. Thank you.